Wyndham Hotels and Resorts makes travel possible for all. Whether it's the long haulers looking for a great cup of coffee, a roomier rest for the on-a-whim road trippers, or a place to make summer memories with the whole family. No matter who you are, where you're going, or why, with 24 trusted brands to choose from like La Quinta, Days Inn, and Super 8, your Wyndham is waiting. Get the lowest price at wyndhamhotels.com. Restrictions apply. Visit website for more details.
Today on CityCast Portland, we're talking about a recent report on the health of the Willamette River and our local coastal waters. We also have updates on a handful of stories from last week, including Commissioner Rene Gonzalez changing his mind yet again on his own revisions of Mayor Ted Wheeler's updated camping ban ordinance. And we might have a possible redemption for a much maligned executive producer. I wonder who that could be. Joining me on our midweek roundup is our very own producer, Giulia Fiaoni. It's Tuesday, April 23rd. I'm Claudia Meza, and this is what Portland's talking about. Welcome, everyone, to our midweek microdose of news. Today is the day we look at a local story or updates to stories that we might have missed late last week or, I don't know, something that happened over the weekend. And then we just break it down.
We break it down.
Giulia, thank you for being here. How was your weekend?
It was good. I got on a plane and flew out to Montreal to visit my little sister. So I am reporting to you live from Montreal.
So that's not your room.
It's not my room. This is my little sister's room. How was your weekend?
It was good. I went to the One Moto show.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Did you bring Lola?
No. Oh my God, why would you say that? And I feel so bad because I didn't realize that I could, even though it was like outdoors. And then when I went there, I was like, I saw so many little dogs and I was like, I could have brought her.
Oh.
But thank you for reminding me and making me feel guilty. It was awesome. I got to see a karaoke motorcycle, which was amazing.
Very cute. That sounds like a blast.
Well, let's do our story.
Let's get into it.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Enough jib-jab.
So here's the thing. Today we're talking through something that was published late last week by OPB Lands and Environmental Policy reporter April Ehrlich. She looked into how parts of the Willamette River between Eugene and Columbia has gotten so filled with trash that local agencies are ringing alarms to find ways to address it. Now, the report put together by the Oregon Department of Environmental Quality, or DEQ, used data submitted by the nonprofit Willamette River Keeper, whose staff connected the increasing trash pollution to the rise in homelessness. And again, I want to reiterate that this isn't just along Portland. Like, this is, a very large swath. Now, the Willamette River Keeper have been running volunteer cleanups since 2018. And every year they've collected something between, this is insane, 124 and 432 yards of trash.
Yeah.
Which April noted is enough to fill about 50 to 173 level truck beds.
Crazy.
Insane. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so the Oregon DEQ determined that data was enough to list sections of, of that Willamette River area as impaired by pollution, which also means local agencies within those river stretches could face cleanup regulations in the future. And from the map they shared, it's looking like the mouth of the Willamette, which is where I live, down to Lake Oswego, and everything just north of Corvallis down to Eugene. Now, the areas around Salem need more data to be condemned as impaired, but I mean, come on.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm like, it's probably impaired.
Yeah, and what's interesting about this is that, so I just looking into how this works, the DEQ gives their findings to the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, or the EPA, listing what you had just said about certain areas being impaired. And then they're the ones that give that final confirmation of saying, yes, it is impaired. So we're kind of at this midpoint where the DEQ is waiting for that confirmation so that they could start working with local jurisdictions on how to address the issue. And the reason why this is so interesting right now is because they don't have a lot of guidance currently in other states that look into addressing trash specifically. And that's because they define it as something that doesn't have a, quote, single point source.
Right.
And an easier way to describe that is by comparing it to pollution that does, which April gave the example of when certain wastewater treatment plants dump water into streams that are too warm for fish to survive, they're able to pinpoint using certain tools where that warm water is coming from and work with that company or whatever to regulate it, rather than trash kind of comes from wherever, whenever. And if, like you said, it's linked to widespread social issues, it's even harder to track why it's happening and how to provide proper resources so that it stops. So it's an ongoing, almost like experiment, it feels like, on how to wrangle this issue related to the Willamette, and the types of regulations that will come will fall on a number of people. It won't just be one specific company. It'll be kind of everybody's responsibility.
Yeah, it makes me so sad because the Willamette River has so many advocates and defenders. I'm thinking especially about Willie over at the Human Access Project, who organizes summer swim sessions, but even though all of this did like sound like bad news, it's actually great news because it means people are like looking into it, and figuring out these types of solutions that like will hopefully secure funding. I feel like we've all heard about last year and early this year, there were projects to clean up and restore the Columbia to get our salmon numbers up, which is awesome. But now I feel like the Willamette is getting needed attention. Like, do you see the river often? Because I live really close to it, so I see the river nearly daily. But more and more derelict boats are washing up on the shore. That's a big deal. Like, where are these boats coming from? Why are they on the shore? Like, what's going to happen to them,
Yeah, I don't spend a lot of time on the riverfront. I'm a little bit more central, and I feel like the only time I'm like really paying attention to the river is when I'm crossing to get to somewhere else. But one of my hopes for this summer is to actually go in the Willamette. I've never been in. So
like on a yacht?
Actually dive in, like swim in the Willamette.
We looked into the story together.
I know it's taboo, but I hope the timing lines up where there's no like algae bloom so I can actually go in.
Right. Well, Julia, I don't know if you heard, but this March, the EPA stepped in with a proposal to add portions of like the Upper Columbia River to the Superfund National Priorities list. So I don't know. Part of me is like, they're going to be here. They're going to be around. Someone should just like move their gaze a little further south, Like, have you looked at this?
Do you hear what's going on?
Yeah. But I mean, they all end up in the ocean, so we should probably pay attention.
Yeah. So speaking of the ocean, our Oregon coast was one of the things that was listed in this report as well, because we're facing issues with ocean acidification and hypoxia, which put simply, ocean acidification is a reduction of the pH balance of our ocean over an extended period of time because of an uptake in carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. And then hypoxia is low levels of dissolved oxygen in the water. So more CO2 in the atmosphere from fossil fuels means more CO2 in the ocean, which leads to acidification. And what's interesting about this is that if the EPA does approve these findings from the DEQ, Oregon will be the first state in the U.S. to have marine waters listed as impaired, which
that's messed up.
Really surprised me. You would think at this point we would have more of that right now.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's because the people, who are supposed to be paying attention to this are paying attention to this, like in our area. But anyhow, I mean, like, there's no way. I grew up in Southern California. There's no way parts of the coast of California are not impaired. Like, absolutely no way. You know what I'm talking about.
If it's happening here, it's happening everywhere.
Yeah, I'm sure Coney Island is like, it's pristine. Yeah.
So that's all a little bleak, but I do have some good news about things that are happening on the Willamette River. Rachel Saslow from Willamette Week reported last week that the iconic 150-foot Portland Spirit cruise ship is celebrating their 30th anniversary next month.
Nice.
And they're doing this by hosting an all-out 90s-themed event on May 9th and 23rd called the Best of Portland Anniversary Cruise. And Rachel wrote, 90s attire is encouraged, and for $30, local food and drink vendors will offer samples, including Blue Star and Voodoo Donuts, Creo chocolate, Rogue ales and spirits, and more. And characters such as the Unipiper, Una the Mermaid, Cordy the Chicken, and the Portland Pickles mascot Dylan will be on board, which I love the fact that his name is Dylan. But if that doesn't do it for you, they're also starting a new happy hour cruise this summer. from 3:30 to 5 p.m. for only $29 with a full-service bar and happy hour menu.
Julia, I feel like this should be the first step for you on the river.
Not just diving in.
I know. I think that maybe you should start slow on a boat with a drink in your hand.
I honestly don't think it's going to take much convincing. I feel like I'm going to see you there, Claudia.
Well, all right, let's take a quick break here. When we return, some updates on a few stories we talked about this past week. All right, so I have an update on the story I talked about on just this Friday's roundup. Willamette Week City Hall reporter Sophie Peel wrote that Commissioner Gonzalez has reworked his updates to Mayor Wheeler's, revamped camping ordinance that City Council was set to vote on. Initially, Gonzalez's additions would have given all rulemaking power over the camping ban to the mayor and the incoming city administrator, and it also proposed different penalties and basically immediately banned all camping if there weren't available shelters, which was like the huge caveat that like the new chill ban, as I call it, still a freaking camping ban, that Wheeler had proposed. A lot of people were like, well, that's cooler, And then, of course, a lot of advocates for the houseless were just like, yeah, it still sucks, y'all. But since last Tuesday, Commissioner Gonzalez has now dropped a stiffer penalty. So they're pretty much the same as Mayor Ted Wheeler's first proposed more chill camping ban. But he's kept that the mayor gets to have all the say and power over the camping restrictions. So currently, the city council appears split on Gonzalez's plan. Wheeler and Commissioner Carmen Rubio have voiced strong opposition to it. But Commissioners Dan Ryan and Mingus Maps say they're open to learning more. They're like, oh my God, a dictator-style ban? Spill the deets, girl.
Yeah, tell me about it.
So some council members are also peeved at how Gonzalez circulated his amendments to the ban last week because he didn't send it to them directly. He had the city's attorney, Robert Taylor, circulate it under attorney-client privilege. Check this out. Basically, he didn't want it leaked to the press. So Commissioner Rubio's chief of staff wrote an email to the press with a quote, "Please know that privilege only applies to legal advice." So we got it, and we got his full updated proposal. It clearly states that if the Supreme Court repeals Oregon's current law on camping bans, Gonzalez's camping goes full nuclear and immediately makes it like being a crime, like to be homeless. So now, of course, it doesn't say those words exactly, but it paints a very clear legal picture. Let me put it just that way. So now the Portland City Council is expected to consider both Wheeler's and Gonzalez's proposal on Wednesday. However, everyone is betting that Gonzalez's proposal will probably change once again before the meeting. So that's my fun update. Oh, what about you?
Yeah, super fun. Thank you for that. So mine is also related to a story that we featured in our Friday News Roundup last week. So we'll make sure to link to this in our show notes. But we had Brian Vance, our CityCast Director of Digital Strategy, on, and he talked about some ongoing city infrastructure projects in Southeast, most notably some problematic unfinished crosswalks on Southeast Stark. But some good news is, since we had that conversation, Jacob Loed from Montevilla News just reported that, quote, construction crews began applying high visibility crosswalks and bike crossings to Southeast Stark Street and Southeast 80th Avenue. Workers plan to continue the street painting process 1 block south on Southeast Washington, completing this section of the 70s Neighborhood Greenway project. And the reason why they were delayed was because of, quote, winter weather. So
yeah, it wasn't the like 2 contractors that they're using, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I love that literally published on the day that our show was released. And so it just looked like we made something happen. Which we did not.
Yeah.
Shout out to Jacob at Montevilla.net, who I'm sure has been reporting on that story as well. That's their local paper. I love local neighborhood papers. It's like a one-man show. So I know Jacob, that's where we got a lot of our info through Brian. So that's pretty awesome. It matters, you guys. It actually matters that we talk about this.
So there's that, but I do have another one.
Okay.
We mentioned Dylan, the Portland Pickles mascot, earlier.
You get it, right, Dill? Dill pickle?
Yes, I love that.
Dylan. Okay.
It's so good. But another thing that we mentioned on our Friday News Roundup was some misinformation spread by our executive producer, John Notoriani, in our March Guide episode about some hot dogs that were supposed to be on the menu at the new Portland Pickles Bar on Mississippi Avenue that are not actually on the menu. So I just wanted to confirm that John was not completely losing his mind, and that KGW reported back in March that, quote, local craft beers, specialty cocktails, and a curated selection of the best stadium hot dogs from Dodger Dogs to Fenway Franks.
That's what I said.
Will be at this bar. So that's my update. I think we owe John an apology, or maybe KGW does. But
I think KGW owes John an apology. I didn't get a hot dog, Giulia.
I know. It's tragic no matter how you cut it.
John just so you know, John just sent us a leak and was like, it was in the Oregonian too. So it's clear that this was a press release from the Portland Pickles Public House because, I mean, how did so many people get it, you know?
Yeah.
And I just want you to know that I never thought John was a liar. I was just disappointed that he was wrong. Well, I also just wanted to say that we got a couple of notes, and I do mean like 2 notes from listeners who were taken aback at an exchange OPB reporter Dirk Vanderhart and I had during his chat with us about the monumental kicker tax credit refund. In that episode, he did this phenomenal job breaking that down because he's really good at explaining stuff and making it engaging even when the topic is wonky and kind of boring, you know? Mm-hmm. But anyhow, we wanted to address it because in setting up why we were talking about the kicker, we also talked about how his son is named Hugo, and it came up right away because before our taping, Dirk warned us that Hugo might start crying, and so I thought I'd throw in his name in there just in case we had to explain a crying baby, which honestly, pro move on my part. But anyhow, Dirk...
You're a professional.
I really am. Dirk and I ended up having a comedic back and forth on where he got his son's name from. And usually we cut like these kind of insider-y clowning around. But this time we kept it because Dirk's reaction to me messing with him was so strong. And it cracked us all up like over and over again that we were just like, screw it. We're just going to keep it in. But just for some background, Dirk and I have known each other for years. We actually used to be neighbors and frequently carpool to work when I was also at OPB. And I think that tends to be what happens when we have our old OPB coworkers on the show is we fall back on established dynamics. And Dirk and I are like playfully bickering all the time for our own amusement. So I just wanted to assure everyone that no Hugos or feelings were hurt in that exchange. That was just Dirk and I existing in a space together. And just imagine having to drive back to work every morning. For those who were offended, first off, bless you for caring enough about a stranger to say something. That's really sweet. But if you are new to our show, just know we're probably going to keep doing stuff like that. I'm sorry. It's just, we started this show to help create and inform a community that feels empowered to change things we don't like about our city and thoroughly embrace all the things we do love about it. But also having come from stodgy newsrooms ourselves, we wanted to give our hardworking local reporters a place to shine, to let their hair down, give their opinionated hot takes, curse, and sometimes go on random tangents about their child's name. But before we head out, I just wanted to remind everyone that we are taking submissions for the 503 Day theme song. If you don't know, 503 Day is the very real holiday we here at CityCast Portland are trying to create for all of us Portlanders. So this May 3rd, we can celebrate ourselves for sticking with it and all that is Portland.
Yeah.
And actually, Julie, do you want to share out the good news? I heard there will be stickers.
Yes, stickers with a special 503 Day logo, but sneak peek into some of the submissions we've been getting. We just got one from Bill Oakley, who used to be one of the writers for The Simpsons and is now a local food critic. Just to give you an idea of what he sent in. He is shirtless in the sun outside drinking a cider. So more to come on that. He's very excited about 503 Day. We also got some from Timber Jim about how he'll be celebrating. Lots to come. We're very excited. Please submit your submissions as soon as you can. We're excited to celebrate with you.
Yeah. Also, I just wanted to shout out that someone also submitted one of the most amazing theme songs I've heard so far.
Oh my gosh, yes.
It is so good. I can't wait to share that with y'all. It's so good. I hope we don't get sued because it is a parody, but we're going to air it no matter what. But anyhow, if you're musically inclined, we'd love to hear your version of a 503 Day theme song. Email it to us at portland@citycast.fm by April 26th. And we're just excited. Thanks, you guys. Seriously. This is such a kick. Well, Giulia, thanks for hanging out with me this morning. And all of you for listening. I'll see you in 2 minutes.
Yeah. Thanks, Claudia.
That's all for today here on CityCast Portland. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please share it with a friend, rate or leave us a review. It really does help us out. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more from around the city. Until then, see you at Slim's.